All right, it looks like we are live. All right. Good evening, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with a special live weather update where we are going to take a look at this pretty interesting and potentially treacherous snowstorm. Well, not snowstorm, sorry. Storm coming for Christmas. Snowstorm still in the mind from last week. Delvin, hello, good evening. I'm assuming those notifications worked for you. We'll see if Raymond joins or if anybody else joins. Let me get this all shared out. Hello, Raymond. Thank you for joining us. See you there. I'm just going to send this out. So if anybody else wants to join, they are more than welcome to. So before we get started, how are you guys doing? How's your week going? Let's talk about the Christmas snowstorm. Keep saying snowstorm. It's not a snowstorm. I don't know why. Building a big bridge in Minecraft. Nice. Wow, it's been so long since I've played Minecraft, and I am excited. Sorry if that vibrated the microphone, but Minecraft got the full-fledged RTX update. I have no idea how my graphics card would handle it. I have the RTX 2080. The 3080 would be preferable to have for decent levels of RTX playability, but I'll have to give that a try. I've had the beta, I've tried the beta, and the performance was terrible. It looked so good, but I was getting like 15 frames per second with RTX turned on. And settings not the highest. I was trying like block, I forgot what I think it was called, block rendering. I had it actually as low as it can go for block rendering, and it still wasn't enough to bring it down to get it kind of above 20 FPS. 54, calling for, yes. What is the temperature now? That reminds me. So I have 32 degrees where I am right now. All right, anyway, let's talk about the Christmas 2020 snowstorm. Stop saying. Why am I saying snowstorm? It's not a snowstorm. I just caught myself again. All right, there we go. Got that out on Twitters. Gotta get to the Facebook. And Raymond, yes, I have since tweaked some settings. Um, it it takes a lot of power, and even the highest end, Linus Tech Tips. If you ever watched the videos, they did a very interesting video. They had the most powerful computer money can buy right now. The highest end graphics card you can get is the 3090. they had two of them. They've tried it with both 2 and 1 3090s. They had it with like a 64 core or something ridiculous. And it was not powerful enough to run Cyberpunk at its max settings. All right, let's get this posted out here. Posting. There we go. All right, we are good there. Yes, we're going to take a look at some potential severe weather that could happen with this. Very interesting that, and especially right now, it's kind of like two strands of a storm. Severe weather and a snowstorm all in one. But also, because it's Christmas week, I have a little hot chocolate. But this is also spiked hot chocolate with the peppermint schnapps, the 90 proof stuff. So, cheers. That is a tasty drink. And it tastes like the holidays because the peppermint schnapps, it tastes like a York peppermint patty. So if you like peppermint, that's a pretty good drink. And the 90 proof is a little on the stronger side, but it's a good drink. One of the only warm alcoholic drink I've had. Yes. 4 concurrent viewers. Yeah. Anybody else that is watching and wants to chime in, you're more than welcome to. But also the COVID strains. I actually have not followed the news too closely this week, but it was interesting to talk about that. And there was another one in Brazil. I think the last news I heard from today was there is another different strain in Brazil, which is very interesting. Okay. Let's get started. Get this party going. And we're going to start with some watches, warnings, and advisories. So here, National Weather Service. This is the Upton office. So around the New York City area, we still got quite a bit here. We got some high wind warnings. What else we got? Flood watches, wind advisories. This is going to be one nasty storm. So for Santa Claus coming through tomorrow night, I can't believe tomorrow night is Christmas Eve already. What a year. Anyway, so tomorrow night for Santa's flight, around the Northeast, really, it's going to be difficult because that storm coming through is going to have some very strong winds. The reindeer are probably going to have a really hard time getting through this. Thankfully, Rudolph does have his red nose so bright, but that still is maybe not powerful enough to actually get through the strong winds, which these could be tropical storm force winds we're talking about there. Tropical storm is 35 miles per hour. We're going to see winds maybe getting up to 60, potentially more. And hurricane force winds are 74 miles per hour. So it's not too far off, but I don't think it's going to get that high. Let's say we'll see some gusts up to 60 miles per hour. Brian! Hello, Brian. I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? Yes, the Operation Warp Speed was actually pretty nice. But Brian, I could, if you want, I can FaceTime you in. There with the software update on the Mac, I can't get the audio through, so I would have to FaceTime you through the phone and then kind of like put the mic to the phone to the mic. Merry Christmas, Brian. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while. I actually haven't even talked to some of the others. I know the Joe and Joe. I haven't talked to them in a while, but we'll have to try and get a whole stream together. Okay, totally understand, Brian. But Delvin and Raymond, for those of you that don't know, Brian there, he was the chief meteorologist that I was working for at FiOS. So he is in there too. And yes, Raymond, the kid bomb. Parents know too well about that. But Brian, if you're just joining, a little peppermint schnapps and hot chocolate drink for the evening. Okay. So let's start talking through these warnings, and then we'll talk a little bit about what the National Weather Service is posting, because I do kind of like these new things that they're posting, especially on the Twitter accounts. So here we're talking quite a bit of advisories, but not all of them are actually out there in this view. Oh, that is Meg. I forgot to do not disturb this thing. Where is do not disturb? There it is. Okay. So this is in the New York City area. Joe is live at the same time, too. Interesting. Yeah, I'm just waiting for these new audio drivers to be available for the audio interface I'm using for the microphone. It has something called a loop back function, where it can take the computer's desktop audio, which is fed through the outwards towards the audio interface, and then when these drivers become available again, it'll take the desktop audio that's coming out, mix it with the microphone audio, and then take that mixed signal and send it back to the computer's input. I'm using OBS right now, so it'll come up as a mixed audio input signal in OBS. So that's where I'm waiting on these drivers to be able to do that, because right now I'm just limited to mic audio, and that's about it. I can't get any other kind of computer audio in here at the moment. Just waiting. All right, so let's go a little bit more west here. And now we're starting to take a look at these winter weather advisories and winter storm watches. So this is where we're going to be seeing quite a bit of a very interesting and complicated system in some areas. But let me just zoom in here. So here is all the kind of wintry weather advisories and warnings. And then here we're starting to get into the higher wind warnings and some of the flooding too, which potentially could cause some issues because we're going to have an Arctic blast right after this. So the flooding, the melting snow, that can refreeze, essentially. And we do have quite a bit right out here. Blizzard warnings. Oh, this is an interesting one. Civil emergency message. So I went out to where the storm is right now. Okay, so this looks like a bit more due to no visibility. Trucks will not be going out. So basically, that is kind of saying that if you're in there, there's no help coming. But there's the blizzard warnings, and this is essentially what we're seeing right now. And this is the first time I will be using the National Weather Service's new radar app. I've used the old one for quite a bit, but this is the brand new one that is fully released. The other style radar is discontinued. And here, it's actually kind of interesting because there's a full tutorial on here, but there's layers that you can have. There's menus. What we got? Let's take a look at satellite. So look at this. I could put a satellite image as the base layer over there. This is kind of interesting. I'm going to have to play around with this a little bit, but for right now, let's just use the standard one. Oh, maybe the darker one. Nah, I like the standard. I'll have to play around with this a little bit more. But here you can toggle states, you can toggle counties. We won't do counties, county warning areas. Kind of neat. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more. Brian, if you're watching, I don't know if you've used this one yet, but let's take a little zoom in here. We got your controls down here. Yeah, Raymond, I think I need 1,000 subscribers for a super chat. The last time I talked with Joe Chaffee, he actually floated around the idea with I should take a look at Patreon. So that I'm definitely going to be considering going into 2021 is setting up a Patreon for the channel. Just because that way it's independent of the YouTube views and independent of the YouTube platform itself. This is not loading in pretty well. Let me see if I can force it to. It's not loading the radar. Yeah, it's just stuck there. But anyway, let's open up Radar Scope. And now, let's take a closer look in here. This is kind of where the snowiest, the blizzard part of it is with the blizzard warning. So now that is the moisture level that is in the atmosphere. So that's producing, especially those darker blues, very intense snow going through those strands there. Brian messaged me too. Yeah, we got to figure out a way to do a four-way kind of stream again. We did that once where it was me, Brian, Joe Rayo, Joe Chaffee, I think Addison as well. All right, so this is what we're seeing right now with the storm out there. And what we have to do is kind of track through this with the models where this is going to end up in our area. So let's take a look since radar's not really, it's kind of popping in. It's going, maybe, maybe not. If National Weather Service is watching, that's some feedback I got for you guys. Why is this taking so long to... There we go. It took so long to pop all this in. But, just taking a look here, this is not that far away. So, even though the bulk of this storm is going to be the overnight hours Christmas Eve, we are actually not going to kind of like ignore the day on Thursday for Christmas Eve. Just because it can start in the afternoon, maybe not heavy, but we could be starting to see some little outer bands from the system. Especially when you take a look here at the surface map, this is quite a big system. And there's an issue right here with the cold front. That is going to cause a couple of things. Number one, it could be causing a potential severe outbreak. And Raymond, you did allude to this a little bit earlier with the tornadic potential in the Carolinas. But what is the center? It looks like 985. It's showing as the 985 millibar is the center of the low. And this is the surface analysis. This is not forecast. This is what it is. So it is 985 millibar as of 23:02. That's an odd time to be putting it up. So let's just say 23Z. So that's 6 p.m. That's still a decent low. And the pressure gradient that we're seeing here with these isobars getting close together, windy. That's going to be the main treacherous part, the wind. Because the wind can affect everything. The wind can affect the flooding because the wind can force the water to move in different areas. So when we have our counterclockwise rotation, depending on the exact position of the low, we could be getting northeasterly winds, because this may be a northeasterly winds coming into the coastline of the, specifically in our area, the Jersey Shore, the South Shore of Long Island, even going as far south as the Carolinas there. We could be seeing a flooding potential from this. The only thing is on the backside with the counterclockwise, down here, this is kind of why going into, say, Georgia, the winds are going to be more on the outward side, just because it's outflow. It's pushing the water away. But here, with the northeasterly winds, that could be causing some coastal flooding there. One other thing I want to check before we get to the models. Storm Prediction Center. Let's see if they put anything out. Here we go, the day 2. That, right there, an enhanced risk for your Carolinas there. And let's take a look at the tornado. That's a decent amount. A 10% tornado categorical risk. Let's see. No hail, wind damage. I would say there should probably be more wind a little bit more north here, too. But a tornado on Christmas Eve. Maybe even Christmas Day. Depends on the exact timing. But this is how intense this system could be with this strong cold front. So that's the Storm Prediction Center's outlook there, especially with the enhanced risk. All right, let's start taking a look at the forecast models, starting with the good old tropical tidbits. And let's take a look at our GFS. Even on the initial frame of this, just look at this pressure gradient. That is some tightly packed isobars there. All right. So starting out the day, 12Z here, windy. I've heard some gusts of wind throughout the day, but not really consistent. But this is going to change going into tomorrow. So we got our 7 a.m. 12Z. And even it's showing maybe, and again, this is 6-hour average precipitation. So maybe a little bit starting going into Pennsylvania a bit more. But then, this is where the intensity really starts to kick up. 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve. It's like knocking on New Jersey's door right there. It's already in Pennsylvania, knocking on New Jersey's door. And right there, 1 a.m., right in the middle of Santa's flight, we're going to have very, very strong winds. And we're going to have some pretty intense rain. 6-hour average precipitation, millimeters per hour. So if we take a look, say, in the darker reds there, that is 10 millimeters, a centimeter of rain in a 6-hour period. It's kind of what you're seeing there. That's still quite a bit. And remember, assuming about a 10-to-1 snow ratio, if by the end of this we're seeing 1 to 2 inches of rain, that could have been 10 to 20 inches of snow. And of course, that would fluctuate depending on the exact snow ratio. Could have been because this is fairly warm air right before here. If this temperature profile was a little bit different, we could have had wet snow. So it may have been like, say, an 8-to-1 snow ratio. But still, that could have been a lot of snow if it was cold enough to support snow. And then right there, 7 a.m. on the GFS here, 18Z run, 12Z, 7 a.m. Right there, that's the intense part of it. Strong winds and heavy, heavy downpours. You're definitely going to be seeing some very intense rain in there, and maybe even some rumbles of thunder. Just because I think we were still in a thunderstorm. Yes, and even going as far north as like going into the Albany area, north of the Albany area, all of Massachusetts is still seeing a thunderstorm potential out of this. So that's a GFS. Let's take a look at the Euro on pivotal weather. So here, let's cycle through. The winds aren't starting as quickly, but still by tomorrow morning, we're going to see those winds pick up, and it's kind of hinting at still some little sprinkles to start the day, but nothing intense just yet. Until here, we're starting to see 1 p.m. 18Z, and this is the 7 p.m. starting to get into the Christmas Eve festivities. Heavy rain there, very sharp right there, freezing line, strong pressure gradient, and just look between these two 6-hour time frames. Nothing much has changed. So this storm is not a fast mover between. So 6 hours, it barely moved. If you look at the freezing line there, it moved about that much in 6 hours. Not moving fast at all. And then going into the morning here, it looks like it does pick up a little bit of speed, but still look at how intense that is. This is going to be a treacherous storm going into Christmas morning. I feel bad for Santa. I'm glad I'm not flying a sleigh in the middle of this. And then this starts to make its way out later in the day. And remember, with our counterclockwise rotation, we are getting pretty much, especially if you're following some of these isobars, we're getting almost due northerly winds. And that's Arctic air. That's going to be really cold air. So a lot of rain, melting of snow, and then cold air right behind that. Everything's going to freeze. So that's the Euro. Now let's head back to Tropical Tidbits, and we're going to take a look at the icon. Okay. Oh, I have the wrong run. That's the 18Z. Let's go to the 12Z run of the icon. A little bit. Actually, no. You shouldn't need that length. Let's go to the 18Z. Let's go to the updated one. And let's see what this one is showing. Still that very strong pressure gradient. Here comes a little bit. In the morning hours, it's not really showing too much. But again, maybe hinting at a little bit going into the New York City, kind of like Jersey, maybe. A little bit here just because I can think this could be a little bit faster, so can't rule it out completely, especially if the GFS and the Euro did show a little bit of some sprinkles in the morning. But the bulk of it is going to be at night. Here we're going into that 0Z, 7 p.m. time frame, and there's that really intense, like, spine of this storm. There's the low, 990 at that point, so still pretty strong. That pressure gradient, though, look at that. Such heavy rain and strong winds. Friday morning, waking up on Christmas morning, 7 a.m., you're going to be dealing with some pretty intense rain. So, along with the Christmas gifts, you may also be gifted a power outage. So that is definitely a possibility here. And then starting to go into the afternoon, this is making its way. So 18Z, so Delvin for you out in Boston. That time frame right there, 1 p.m., that is going to be where it's getting through most of New England. Let me go back to the GFS here. Yeah, 18Z, 1 p.m., Eastern there. That's where the spine of this storm is getting into the New England area. Very intense. You may not get any wraparound snow, but you're going to be still dealing with some strong winds there. All this area is dealing with strong winds and is dealing with this very intense rain. It may sit over the New York City area line right there. So the Jersey Shore going through New York City, going up through right around the eastern border of New York. It may sit there for a little bit longer if you see there. It kind of hovers right around there. So you're probably having some sort of a marine layer influence on this, that once the storm hits that area, it's then kind of stalling for a little bit and then makes its way through. Yep, just about right after lunchtime, right there for Boston. All right, so that is making its way through, and then to end the day, Christmas Day, strong winds. We're gonna have, especially if you look at these, the ISO, what are these, thickness lines? Yeah, that pretty much that strong cold air advection that we're getting. And I remember college professor always said to look at the angle between the ISO bar and the isotherm or the isotac here. If this is almost 90 degrees, which it is, that's the strongest advection you're going to get, movement of the cold or the warm air. So cold air advection is very strong because this is almost a 90-degree angle. If these two bars, the isobar and then the isotac there, if they are parallel, then you're getting no cold air advection or warm air advection. But here, there's almost a 90-degree angle between them. So that's some pretty strong cold air advection you're getting. That's that Arctic air coming down. That's the icon. Let's also take a last look here with the NAM. All right, so it's still showing that pretty strong pressure gradient, so you're seeing a lot of wind coming through. And then this, on the NAM specifically, I got a shave there. Anyway, on the NAM specifically, you're dealing with near-surface reflectivity. Basically, this is simulated radar. So the NAM is showing, like we were mentioning before, a little bit of sprinkles going into the morning on Christmas Eve. And that's linger just here and there, but nothing too intense besides the wind that's going to be kicking up. And then that rain. Here comes that spine. It really looks like a spine of very intense rain. And it does kind of linger a little bit in this area, so it's not a fast mover. So then we're seeing going into, this is 1 a.m. Christmas Day still, in the middle of Santa's flight. And we're seeing the strong winds, heavy rain. This is going to be intense. Then going through 7 a.m., that 12Z on Christmas Day, right there, kind of right over the New York City area. That's the most intense of it. Yeah, we can take a quick look at those, Delvin. Let's finish up with the NAM here. The other one, I know Joe Chaffee always talks about, he's probably talking about it right now in his live stream, is the FOOS data. I always neglect the FOOS data. So Delvin, specifically in the Boston area, yeah, you're getting it just after lunchtime. You're getting that spine rolling through there. So you're not really going to see any snow. And here, with the simulated radar, the near-surface reflectivity on the NAM, it's showing maybe some snow showers getting into the Hudson Valley, the northwest part of New Jersey, northern Pennsylvania, sporadically in New York, here in Vermont. So that's possible with storms like this. We do tend to see wraparound snow. That's not the accumulating part of the storm. But yeah, that's leaving some strong winds and some flurries. But that also, I'm not saying it's going to be a blizzard here, but when you're dealing with a blizzard, this is where you can get blizzard conditions still occurring without accumulating snow, because visibility and the strength of the winds, the speed of the wind, deals a little bit more with the blizzard. So you can still have a blizzard warning in effect while the storm is gone and the sun is out. It's all the visibility and the wind. And that makes its way out pretty much overnight or later into the evening on Christmas Day. You're still going to deal with some lingering, especially by the Great Lakes and the Finger Lakes area there. Some lake effect you may be seeing over here. But this is still going to be some pretty cold air. All right, let me bring up here. Let's bring up the CMC. I don't usually use that one too often, but maybe not the R gem, but we'll bring up the gem here, because it is a gem, isn't it? As Joe Chaffee and I agree on. Let's just rewind this. All right, let's take a look. Pretty intense with the pressure gradient there. So strong winds leading up before the precipitation comes through. And this is going through the morning hours on tomorrow, Christmas Eve. Dealing with, again, starting with some showers. Strong winds and showers, and then the intensity comes through. And you're dealing with that spine. It's very interesting. They all show this spine of rain that's coming through. The spine of the storm, the backbone. And that is showing 1 a.m. Friday. So 6Z Friday. Right in the middle again of Santa's flight. And then that's still waking up Christmas morning. Still very intense. Look at that. Dark reds we're getting into there. That's some pretty intense rain we're dealing with. And the strong winds. My guess is it's very likely that we're going to see some power outages with this. And then going into the afternoon, just after lunch, there you are in Boston. There's the spine of the storm moving through Boston there. And then still you get that strong winds, that intense cold air advection coming through, bringing down the Arctic air. And you're dealing with that wraparound snow coming off the Great Lakes as well. But still that cold coming through. And then going into the Christmas weekend, cold, maybe a little bit of flurries if you're coming off the Great Lakes there. But that high coming in means it's going to be clearing up a little bit, but still, the winds, that pressure gradient stays through Saturday, even going into Sunday until the high really comes in on Sunday. Very interesting. And Delvin, HDRPS. I'm not familiar with that one. So if you have a link, or like, I know you can't post a link in the chat, but if you can tell me where to get that model, I will most definitely look it up for you guys. HDRPS. The RPS reminds me of a temporary support role that I used to do June through October. That role does not exist anymore. It was the most interesting role. I don't want to get into that too much, but yeah, Delvin, if you have HDRPS, let me see if I can just look it up here real quick. The HDRPS Tropical Tidbits model. Oh, in the mesoscale. Okay. And besides, we'll look at the R gem too. You asked for the R gem. I gave you the gem. We'll take a quick peek at that. All right, so here's the R gem. All right, so starting out Christmas Eve, again with those little bits of some showers to start out the day. And the RPM, unfortunately, I don't have access to. Once Fios 1 News ended, I lost access to that. I can even show you now, technically, that I don't have a contract. Modellab.wsi.com. That was what we had. It didn't even let me log in. Let me just see if I can try and log in here. Just switch this real quick. Why didn't it even give me a login screen? Hold on here. Model Lab. All right. I haven't logged into this or tried to in a while. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not letting me log in with that one. Let me try this one. The other login I don't remember from CBS when I worked there. Anyway, okay. We can't get the WSI Vortex Model Lab. I do miss that one. Okay, anyway, back to the RGEM. So it's still showing kind of the same thing here with the showers to start out the day. And then, still strong pressure gradient. We're seeing, this is 1 hour average precipitation rate. So we're still seeing there, starting in the afternoon, some little showers. Then the intense part starts coming in right after. So this is Tuesday, Friday. So that's 9 p.m. That's where we are definitely seeing this intensity. Wow, that is more intense. Wow, what was that? That is getting into the pinks with the rain there. And what is this? Millimeters per hour. So that is showing 1 hour. 24 millimeters per two. That's about an inch of rain per hour. Wow. 24 millimeters, because about 2.5 centimeters is about an inch, which is 25 millimeters. So that's some pretty intense rain there. And that's why the severe weather risk with the tornadic activity, that's why that is down near the Carolinas down there. And then look how slow this moves, too. I know it's 1 per hour, but still, it's not moving too much. So let's go to 6C. So here's a picture at 6C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's just not moving a lot. That's a lot of rain to deal with in that 6-hour period. That is intense. Imagine if this was snow. If we're dealing with an inch of rain per hour, a foot of snow per hour, or 10 inches per hour. That wow, that's intense. But usually when you get more south with the latitudes, you don't really deal with the snow line too much, especially getting down into the Carolinas there. But still, this is intense rain. That spine, and then going into the Boston area, it's actually a little bit slower, the RGM. It doesn't even get into... Oh, no, never mind. Why was I seeing... There's 18Z. I thought that was 18Z before. So there, it's showing the same time frame. So yeah, just after lunch, like you were saying before, that's where the most intense is going to be. Lunch to just a little bit after lunch. And then the cold air advection starts to come in. Those temperatures are going to drop like a rock. And then going into the weekend, still Saturday is showing some very strong pressure gradients. Not really too much in terms of precipitation unless you're near the Great Lakes there. So we're going to be seeing still that lake effect snow. The high starts coming in. Oh, and that's the end of the RGM. And then, what was the other one? HRDPS. There we go. Let's rewind this one. I have not used this model before. I really haven't ventured too much into the other models available on Tropical Tidbits here. Okay, so starting your day on Christmas. Again, it's still showing. And what is this? 1 hour average precipitation rate. Okay, still the same. Little bits of some sprinkles here and there going into Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, kind of like air corner there. The winds really start kicking up with that higher pressure gradient. And then going into the afternoon, that is where the real intense rain the showers really start to come in a little bit more here. But the intense part is going to be after sunset. This is 9 p.m. Eastern, 2Z Friday. That's dealing with some pretty intense rain. Now, the spine of this system is actually a little bit wider on this model. Very interesting. But you're still seeing that same intensity more south. Yeah, that same legend on the scale here. So that's about 1 inch per hour of rain. And this is going to last through, again, Santa's flight overnight. Then Christmas morning, you might be dealing with more than just normal gifts. You might have the gift of the power outage. And then, for the Boston area, getting into the New England area, yeah, this is actually faster. So here's 18Z on Friday, and I made sure it's 18Z. It's actually a little bit past Boston. So this is going into late morning to the lunchtime hour. That's where the spine of the rain is coming in. Now, Delvin, yeah, the whole region is going to turn into a 100 by 100 mile ice rink. Yeah, pretty much. But Delvin, I have not used and really looked at this model before. Now, how does this compare to some of the other mesoscale models? For instance, like the NAM. Any idea how this kind of compares? I'd be curious to follow this. Now, there's one other model that we really can't use until same day, which is the rapid refresh. Let me see if I can find that link I used to have. When I upgraded my computer, I don't think it came over well. HRRR. I don't see. Oh, there it is. HRRR. Okay, we're going to redirect. Now, this probably won't go out as much. That's through Thursday morning. I don't think this is really going to go out as far as we need just yet. Let's take a look at this. Oh, the guidance changed. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a flash freeze, but you could be still dealing with some black ice out there, too. Okay, let's take a look at this. So this is the 18Z HRRR. Waiting for it to load there. What's happening? Take another drink. Ooh, I did the wrong. Hold on. Let's do northeast. There we go. Now let's loop it. Which, Raymond, we're going to wrap up again with those. I alluded to it at the beginning of the stream, the National Weather Service posts. Okay, here we go. So again, this is simulated radar. What did I pause it at? Here we go. So 12Z time frame on the HRRR. Little bit of some shower action to start out the day. The most intense part is really starting to come through in those evening hours, maybe a little bit faster on this one. So here's the 0Z. The spine of it, I will still kind of show here. Again, 1 a.m., still targeting that 6Z time frame for the most intense part of the storm. Still going through in the early morning hours, and then it looks like it speeds up. Look at this. So this is showing 14Z, and it's already heading through the Boston area. So by 18Z, it's pretty much out, and you're dealing with the back end of the rain. Versus some of these other ones, like here. There, let's get to 18Z. There's 18Z. A little bit on the faster side, too. Let's go to the GFS. Here's 18Z. So that's pretty much still right in the Boston area. But it's faster on this one. We'll have to see. Because the HRRR is one of the highest resolution models. This is 1 kilometer. Now, since I haven't used this, it's not saying up here the resolution. Do you, Delvin or Raymond, or if Brian, you're still in here, do you happen to know the resolution of this model? If it is still 1 kilometer, like the some of the other the mesoscales, like the HRRR, the NAM. Where's my NAM? This is the 12 kilometer. Let's just go back to the 18Z on the NAM. So that's still showing like right over Boston. That's the bulk of it there. So I'm not 100% sure what the resolution is on that HRDPS. I'm assuming that stands for high resolution and something. Very interesting. All right, and then the last thing we're going to take a quick peek at. Let's go back to our area here. Let's take a look here. So these are some of the posts that the National Weather Service is actually getting out to social media. Scattered to numerous downed tree limbs, branches, and power outages. Urban and poor drainage flooding. Flooding along rivers and streams. Minor coastal flooding. That is for the Upton office. Let's go to now. Here we go. Oh, that's Binghamton. Burlington, nope. Albany, here we go. That was a weird roundabout way of the Albany one. Okay. Flash flood watches have been expanded. 1 to 3. Wow, interesting. New England from 6 p.m. Thursday to 6 p.m. Friday, 1 to 3 inches of rain, isolated 4 inches. Highest amounts, Eastern Catskills, Western New England, and Southern Mid-Hudson Valley. Okay. Yeah, Delvin, we'll have to do some research on that to see if we could find what the resolution is. So I remember, I graduated college in 2013. I can't believe it's been 7 years already. But I remember my senior year, we actually had a representative from IBM come to one of our classes. And he talked about, forget about 1 kilometer. IBM's goal, trying to get weather forecast models, is out. Not 1 kilometer, 1 meter. Imagine that. 1 meter resolution. That is insanely dense. The storage capacity you would need for that kind of model. Because if you think, for slicing up the atmosphere from the surface to 100 or 50 millibars up in the atmosphere at 1 meter resolution, that is an immense amount of processing power that you would need. That is the lofty goal from IBM in the future. What was this one? High wind warnings in effect for Western New England Thursday afternoon through Friday morning. Winds, so this is the sustained winds, 35 to 45 miles per hour expected, with damaging wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour in the high elevations. 60 miles per hour is near hurricane strength wind gusts. That is intense. All right. So with that last little swig here, that concludes this special weather update live, where we took a look at the Christmas 2020 storm coming through. And this is going to be a pretty intense storm. It could be, again, near hurricane strength winds. 60 mile per hour wind gusts, especially in the higher elevation areas. When you look at something called the planetary boundary layer, when you're getting the higher elevation areas, the planetary boundary layer is basically the friction layer that reduces winds with trees and buildings and all that. But in the higher elevation areas, getting into more mountainy areas, you're reducing the friction available. So it's getting near the top of this planetary boundary layer. Delvin, you are correct. This will be an interesting storm, especially timing-wise for Christmas Eve going into Christmas Day. Also, I can foresee this is going to be a case study storm. And that's why I'm glad I'm doing this live stream right now, because this is the day before this storm starts coming through. We're taking a look at some forecast models, which theoretically should be the most accurate for the forecast models day before. So if we're taking a look at a case study, which I might actually look at this as a case study for next year, this should be one of the more accurate forecasts for this storm. And I think any college PhD thesis or case study or anything like that that's around this storm, there's a couple of things to look at. And one of them we've talked a little bit briefly about before, which is the COVID aspect of this. The COVID pandemic has caused some very interesting things to happen in the weather world or the climate world. One of them is the fact that the CO2 levels dropped a measurable amount because of less people commuting, less people driving, more work from home, less flights. So the less polluting of the atmosphere, like directly up in the upper atmosphere with those flights. Does this have an impact on the weather? Reducing all of that, that is a very interesting case study. I'm not sure if I'm going to tackle that, but that is going to be a very complex and potentially a very touchy subject. Because I don't like to get into politics too much. But, Delvin, I'll get to your comment in a second there. I just saw that. But I don't like to get into politics too much, but I don't know why climate change is political. I mean, I could kind of guess why climate change is political, but there is the fact that there is a political aspect to climate change. So, does COVID affect climate and climate change? Some of the things we do have to look at. This is one of the worst hurricane seasons in a while. We ran out of letters and names in the normal alphabet. We had to go very deep into the Greek alphabet, which I think was only the second time that's happened in all of recording history. So that alone, even though you can't really take one aspect, can't take like one data point and say, there's the proof. You have to have repeatable data. That's why this takes like 30 years to really study climate. But that is going to be a most interesting aspect to climate, is the lockdowns, quarantines, stay-at-home orders, whatever you want to call it. That is a very interesting aspect that we're going to have to take a look at. And Delvin, you are most definitely right. This is going to disrupt vaccine deliveries. So I know we have a very tight deadline with these, especially the Pfizer vaccine, which needs to be stored at negative 94 Fahrenheit. That is cold. I know they pack them in dry ice, but the dry ice evaporates eventually. So that's going to have a very big impact on the COVID vaccines, whether it's the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine. Also, forgetting about the pandemic, just normal, like I bought this gift for Christmas and it's not going to deliver on time. This is going to have a very big impact if you're having any kind of like those last minute deliveries that say they're going to deliver on Christmas Eve. They may not. Depending on exactly where you are, because this storm coming through, like, say, Pennsylvania going into Ohio, you may not get your delivery if it's going to say it's going to deliver on Christmas Eve. A little bit more east of that, going to the New York City area, especially going to the Boston area, you may be fine with deliveries for Christmas Eve. And yes, getting the COVID tests will definitely be hard, because I am most certain they're going to shut down COVID testing sites for this. Now, I get weekly, with the company I work with right now, I get weekly COVID testing. It's at home. They actually mail me a Quest Diagnostics COVID test, and I stick the thing up my nose and then swirl it around in the other nostril and swirl it around and send that out. But, yeah, COVID testing is definitely going to pretty much come to a standstill for a day or two. And Delvin, yes, you are most definitely right there. Because of this, COVID tests are going to come to a pause, so it's going to look like we've plateaued just a little bit with COVID. And then, post-New Year's, for instance, you're going to see that positivity rate spike. All right. And with that, just about an hour is what I wanted for this conversation. We are going to wrap for tonight. It has been a great evening. Thank you all for joining. Brian, I'm not sure if you're still watching, but thank you for popping in for just a little bit. Delvin, Raymond, as always, it has been a pleasure talking with you two. This is going to be a most interesting storm to take a look at. I may not be able to get the weather updates out that I would have wanted to. When's the next stream? I don't really know. Maybe tomorrow I would do. I'm not sure if it's going to be a stream or an upload. I'm going to try and get at least another video out before anything really comes up from that. And yes, I'm glad the notifications started working. I think it's because it was like a month I didn't upload videos. So when I started a live stream again, YouTube was just like, we're not going to bother. But now that you guys are coming in and YouTube is seeing that I'm developing this watch time again, it's sending out those notifications. So we'll see. Hopefully it continues like that. But anyway, we'll see. I hope I can get something out tomorrow. Maybe, maybe not. And then maybe I'll do like last year, I think I did a Christmas live stream or a video or something like that. I'll see if I can get something out like that again. Depending on power. If I don't have power, obviously can't really get a video out. So I'll try and see if I keep you guys updated on social media. Weatherman AP on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you all for watching. Again, it's been a pleasure. Please stay safe through this next storm coming through, and heed to all of the CDC guidelines for social distancing and all of that. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure again. Have a great rest of your night. If I don't see you, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I will see you all in that next video.